now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
What is going on, RBLR Nation? You are tuning in to the Rays portion of RBLR Sports. Real quick before I get into introductions, if you're listening to this right off the rip, go ahead and give us a like. It helps us out, and it's the right thing to do. I am one of your hosts, Zach Blaine, and here with me, as always, the one and only Mr. Ben Whitelaw. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. One of my students probably gave me COVID, but it's fine. I feel like 95% good, so I still can taste things. I had some falafel yesterday. It was pretty good.
Hey, I'll take 95 over 100 over anything less than that, so that's good though.
Yeah, it's fine.
So, man, Rays baseball this week.
Yeah, I mean, we started off kind of our recording week with a win against the Tigers in Detroit. We won 3 out of 4 games there, dropped a couple to the Brewers in Milwaukee, and started off the Baltimore series last night with a 3-10 loss.
So what sticks out with you the most in these I want to say a down week. Like, honestly, it wasn't a great week, but it wasn't the worst week we've had. But what kind of sticks out with you the most in this week of baseball?
I think being 3-4 over the last, 2 series and then plus the one that started yesterday. Like, if you want to make the playoffs, you should probably try to win more games, in my opinion. And I know they're trying to do that, but it just sucks that, like, in both games with the Brewers, all the batted ball luck goes against them. The defense was perfect in Milwaukee when they're really not like that at all. They're really not that great of a defensive team, but it is what it is. The game last night was insane. I think the batting average on balls in play for the Orioles was 472. So almost half of the balls in play is everything was like a 70-mile-an-hour bloop single to the outfield that scored 7 runs. That's just how it's been going lately, but I think getting all the bad luck out of the way right now is maybe a good strategy, and I think they can turn it around today behind Shane McClanahan.
Well, I mean, now is Shane McClanahan to bounce back. He's had 2 kind of subpar starts his previous 2 starts, so I think that if he wants to get kind of back into that Cy Young race, he's going to have a very good outing tonight.
Yeah, well, what do you think is going wrong for him? I know we didn't really prep for that, but I want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I think that a lot of it is just I feel weird saying this because I'm not a person that is super high on luck or just unlucky, but a lot of the stuff that he's doing, it just seems like it's unlucky, like you said, little bloop hits, and he's not giving up anything crazy like home run wise or anything. So it just, to me, it seems like stuff is just not falling his way.
Yeah, like his ERA in his last start was 5.68, but his FIP was 2.17. 50% ground ball rate. Like, things are going his way generally. He's not getting the same amount of swing and miss right now. But I think that's just because everybody is swinging at anything in the zone, just putting it in play, which is like a fine strategy, but you can't string together 5 singles every inning against him. It's not sustainable. So I think he'll get some better luck today, I think, against the Orioles, who had that same strategy against Kluber. Hopefully their luck ran out yesterday, though.
Yeah, I mean, when you have 19 hits, obviously it feels like your team is hot right now if you're having 19 hits in the game. I mean, Jorge Mateo had a career-high 5 hits in the game. That I don't think that's something that's going to carry over and necessarily translate into today's game. So I think that we're set up for success today with McClanahan pitching. It's just last night, I mean, for them to only give up 3 home runs out of 19 hits, I wasn't not as upset as I thought I was going to be coming into today's show, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and part of that was Yu Chang pitching, so they already punted when Yu Chang is in the game, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I love him, but he's not a good pitcher because he's not a pitcher. So
I mean, he's no Brett Phillips.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, it's frustrating, but it's, if you look at the numbers just beyond the box score, like Jorge Mateo, I think he had 1 hit that was above 90 miles an hour. Like, he didn't play well at all.
Exactly.
Like, he's fast, but he got thrown out trying to steal. Like Bethencourt had a great game behind the plate. He was like, step for step with Adley, which was really cool. There were a lot of positives. It's just so many, bloops and soft line drives and ground balls down the line that keep going against them.
So this is another thing you just mentioned that we didn't really go over before we recorded. What is your thought on Betancourt? Like, how are you a fan of him? Because I know that when we've traded for him, I wasn't like super hyped for it or anything. But the more that I think about it, the more that I start to like him as a catcher.
Yeah, he's got probably the strongest arm in the majors, if not the second strongest, maybe behind JT Realmuto. He had a 114 WRC plus this week and a 319 weighted on base average. So like he's playing pretty well. Oh, just kidding. He had a 326 weighted on base average. He was doing really well.
Yeah,
And a 119 WRC plus. So he's looking great offensively. I think with more consistent playing time, he could be even better because he does hit the ball really hard. He hits a lot of barrels. It's just kind of hard to get him in, every game because with catchers you want to keep them fresh.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean Mejia's been decent too, but I prefer Bethencourt's bat at this moment over Mejia, who just came back
yeah.
from injury.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say with him coming back from injury, I mean, right now I would take Bethancourt over Mejia, but I mean that's with Zanino out. I think it's just gonna be a platoon back there anyway. So it's just good to have Bethancourt over a guy like Pinto, who I like, but I don't think is ready yet.
Yeah, Pinto's bat just isn't there. Even if he does, he's probably the best like defensive catcher right now in the organization, but you do need a little bit of offense, especially when the team is kind of, getting a little unlucky in that area right now.
Exactly. So yeah, so I mean, I know we didn't really go into detail in the games, but is there any games that you want to go further into detail about, like the series or anything like that?
A little bit with the Brewers series, I thought they played a lot better than, scoring 3 runs in each game. But it's really just the same story as the Baltimore game last night. Nobody is getting the timely hit, and um, it feels like a couple guys that are, key players are cold right now, but they're mostly doing the right thing. Like, most of the time, it's just really unfortunate that the big hit doesn't come or there's not enough guys on base when the big hit does come. Lots of I don't really believe in clutch, but there's a lot of like clutch hitting for the other teams where they just get that like timely 2-out, 2-strike hit in the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning, and then it's game over. So it's frustrating, but there are reinforcements on the way. And like I said, the defense and base running is miles ahead of where it was earlier, so that's a really good sign.
Yeah, and so now I know personally, like talking about what we're gonna get into our players of the week and stuff. But I know for me personally, I had a hard time like looking at certain players and being like, yeah, he deserves the player of the week this week.
Yeah, I don't think I had a very easy time with the pitchers just because I don't know. Nothing really stood out to me that much on the with the arms. There were a couple of good reliever performances that we can talk about, but offensively, I felt like I was pretty confident in my selection. But who did you pick on offense?
See, so I feel like I almost have to go with Yu Chang,
Yeah, me too.
which sounds ridiculous, but I mean, offensively, we were just not there this week.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of the better players in the league this week with his production. Like
Exactly.
he had a 979 OPS. His strikeout rate was down to 12.5% this week, which is incredible because he's usually a pretty high strikeout guy. A 400 ISO, which is crazy to me that he's hitting the ball that hard. 412 weighted on base average and a 179 WRC plus. Like he's doing the thing that I wanted him to do with the Rays when they got him, and it's finally like happening. So it's really really cool to see that.
Yeah, I mean, and it just happens to be later on in the show. I know he's your topic of the week, but him performing this way makes it so hard for the crunch that we're gonna have to do when people are healthy.
Yeah, it definitely does make it like a bit tougher because you want his bat in the lineup, but I mean, I'll talk about it more later, but it kind of feels like they're catching lightning in a bottle with him right now. And as much
Yeah.
as I love him and I want, a Yu Chang statue out front of the Trop, I don't think I don't think it's sustainable. I think we have a better chance of like Jimon Choi snapping out of it than Yu Chang staying this hot through the
Staying
end
in
of the
it,
month.
yeah.
So
And that makes sense. So who do you have for your pitcher of the week then? Because I'm going to be honest with you, I could not decide on who. I know, like for me, Jeffrey Springs was in there, and there was a few people, like you said, relievers. And I was like, all right, yeah, I could see it, but I could not come to a decision.
yeah, it was tough. I definitely like Spring's performance this week, but I feel like I always give it to a starter. So I went with Sean Armstrong just because I think this is like the only chance he'll ever have to, get a player of the week for me this year. So he
Yeah.
deserves it. Um, he had a negative 0.57 FIP this week, which is amazing. Like Fairbanks had a negative 0.88, but I feel like I could give him player of the week later. So I'm not, too pressed about that. But Armstrong also had a 0% walk rate and a 47% strikeout rate. Fairbanks did have a 57 strikeout rate, but just seeing Sean Armstrong do this after, his DFA from the Marlins, like whatever the Rays are doing in their pitching lab is really special.
Yeah, I'm cool with Armstrong getting it. He was one of the names in the relievers. I think it was him. Honestly, it may have just been him and Fairbanks in my like reliever role. But
Yeah.
but I agree. Fairbanks definitely has a better chance of getting it again, especially since he kind of also has been an opener for us, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I could see him getting it again. So I'm cool with giving it to Armstrong. I think he's earned it this week for sure.
He also threw the fastest pitch of his entire career this week against the Brewers. I think he like touched, I believe 98. So he's definitely doing some stuff behind the scenes that I haven't dug into too much. I think Cole wrote something on D Ray's Bay, but I'll definitely have to look into that because he's been really improving his stuff in just a couple of short months that he's been with the Rays.
That might be a good topic to go over next week, and then do some research and go over Armstrong.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, because at first I thought, when either Nick Anderson or Chagua or McKay or Chirinos, when any of those guys are ready, I thought it would be, Armstrong that's going to go, but he's making a case to stay on the team. So,
Oh, definitely. So anything else to touch on from this week of baseball before we get into kind of the injury update and our topics for this week?
no, I'm good. If you have anything, we can go through that, but I'm set for this week.
Yeah, I'm all good for this week as well. I know you got some injury updates for us.
Oh yeah, that's true. So much is happening, and like a lot of guys are really close. So we've got, in no particular order here, Matt Whistler. He had a bit of a setback with his neck strain, so he's kind of out of the picture for a while. Wander and Harold are hitting off a tee, and they're about to take batting practice soon, which is cool. So their rehab could start within the next week. Fire Eisen is still not throwing yet. I think he's like throwing like side sessions, but nothing like official. Nick Anderson, his velo is down, which is a little concerning, but he's looking really good. Like his stuff is sharp, so who knows where he'll be with that. Shagwa, a bit of the same thing. He's just not getting great results right now, but he's really been fine mostly. Manuel Margot is a really big one. He is aiming to return August 20th, so
Oh, good.
that's really cool. He's in Durham right now. I think he's about to start his rehab there. He'd been in the FCL for a little bit. Yanni Chirinos and Brendan McKay both got promoted to A ball to continue their rehab. So things are they're coming by the end of the month, maybe in like the next week and a half. So if they can just take this series from Baltimore and then stay above water for a little bit, the reinforcements are coming finally.
Yeah, I mean, I think taking this series from Baltimore at this point is almost a must.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of must-win stuff about that, but like at least to me, a must-win is like you have to win or you're out of it. And the Rays
Yeah.
don't have to win this series. So like it's definitely the most important series of the year by far, but like it's not a win or go home series. And we probably won't see that until like the last 2 weeks of the year. But if they win this, they do get the tiebreaker against the Orioles for the wild card spot. So I think a win would be really helpful.
Yeah, so now you just brought up kind of the lead for the wild card race. when do you think we start kind of panicking, or, what are our chances of being a playoff team at this point? Like, in your eyes, are we already out? Do you think we have a chance still? Like, what are your, I mean, I wouldn't say a percentage, but how confident are you that we're a playoff team right now?
100%. Until they are like, not in control of their own destiny, I'm not panicking. Like if they have to start relying on like Cleveland and the White Sox and like Toronto, then I'm gonna start to worry. But like they're mathematically like right there, they're literally a half game out. If they go and win today and tomorrow, people are gonna be like, "Oh, the Rays World Series is back on." So it's like just I know the players are trying to ignore the noise, which is good, and that's probably what's been preached to them from Chad Matola. But they just need to keep going out there and having fun because I know it's kind of like the inverse of what Tommy Pham said a couple years ago when he was like, "You never know if you're gonna have this moment again, so take it seriously." But the same can be said with like, you never know when you're gonna have this moment again, so just have fun.
Yeah,
Like
just enjoy it.
you're not going to remember like the ground out you had in the fifth inning against Baltimore in this series, but like you're going to remember like the feelings of playing in front of the crowd on Margaritaville night today, on Brett Phillips basketball jersey night. Like they're going to remember these things, so just have fun, and if they be themselves and just probably stop swinging the bat, I think they'll be a lot better because when they're walking, they're at their best.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I'm not at 100% chance we make the playoffs anymore. I see your reasoning behind it. I think I'm more 80-20, 75-25 in that range, that we make the playoffs as opposed to don't make the playoffs. But I think that we still kind of control our own destiny when it comes to that, if that makes sense at all. Like,
Yeah.
it's on us. If we play to the ability that we can play, I think that we make the playoffs. If we continue this slump for another 2 or 3 weeks, then I think that our chances drop way down.
Yeah, and I don't see this. I'm even hesitant to call it a slump because they went
Yeah.
3-4 over their past like 7 games. Like that's not that bad. It's 5-6 over their last 11 games. So it's like I don't know. It seems worse than it is because they've been in every single game, but it's also really encouraging that they've been in every single game because Jimon Choi is not going to have a negative 26 WRC plus forever, and like Jose Siri is not going to have like a 60% strikeout rate forever. So when those things start to regress to like their normal areas, and we get Harold back, and we get Wander back, and Margot, things are going to look really good.
Yeah, I think to me it just feels more like you're right. 5-6 over 11 games is not. I wouldn't consider that a slump for most teams, but the Rays have been so good for the last 3 years, that it
Yeah.
feels like this feels like a slump to us. But also the fact that we're not in control of our division anymore, I think makes it feel more dangerous, I guess I would say. Like if
Yeah, like
we were in first place, I'd be like, oh yeah, we're good. Like we're okay. We're still treading water. Like we're okay. But the fact that I think we're third right now, that's where it gets a little bit scary.
Yeah, I mean, like, there are essentially 5 teams competing for 3 wild card spots right now. I wanna say Boston's out of it because 'cause they're, like, 4 games out, but, they also have, like, a really a pretty good offense for the most part. So,
Yeah.
it's a bit sketchy, so maybe it's, like, 6 teams for 3 spots, but, like, they're better than the White Sox who are in that mix. They're better than the Red Sox who are in that mix. Um, and Toronto is like really hot and cold. Like they've probably played, some of their best baseball this year, but they're only like 2 games ahead of the Rays. So like if the Rays are at their worst, like, going 5-6 over 11 games and they're only a half game out of the wild card, that's it sucks for sure because we have such high expectations, but it's not, concerning yet.
That's fair. I see where you're coming from. Now, last question about kind of I'm putting it in quotes, slump, or not our best play. Do you think that this has impacted any of our, prospects or younger guys' value as far as either with us or as trade chips to another team?
I mean, I think the Rays are just very honest with themselves with their internal evaluations. Like they're like just Jonathan Aranda, for an example. Like he can flat out hit. He's gonna hit, he's gonna be an above average hitter, but he cannot play defense. Like he straight up is like he would be like I don't know who's the worst defender in the league right now because he'd be like Pat Burrell playing like shortstop. Like he's really so when people are screaming on Twitter that Aranda needs to come up and play shortstop or left field or right field, like that's that's such a like I don't even know what to say to that. Like it's like you're just not even trying to pay attention. Like it's just if they start calling guys up and sending others down and flipping around the roster, like it's going to create more chaos. It's kind of like if you're taking a multiple choice test, just pick and you don't know any answers, just pick A every single time because when you start mixing it up, you're going to increase your chances of getting it wrong. But if you pick A every single time, you're guaranteed to get something right. So just stick with the plan, keep fielding, your best one of your best defensive teams possible because defense is so important. The bats are going to come around, and but I think it's interesting for a guy like Aranda, like I said, because he really is pretty far out of the picture seemingly.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like a guy when people talk about Aranda and you're spot on, like his defense is I'd say borderline terrible. Like he does not play good defense. So it's like the best chance for him to make the roster and stick to the roster is literally as a DH.
Yeah, and there's just no room for a left-handed DH only guy right now, who has, what, 15 major league at bats under his belt. Like
Yeah, something.
you're gonna
Yeah,
throw him into a playoff run. Like that's
it's just
not
not going to happen.
like mentally. That's just such a bad idea, and it doesn't align with the Rays' philosophy. Like if anybody's ever listened to Chad Motola in any interview, he's very much like he's kind of like a West Coast surfer guy attitude, where he's like, whatever happens, happens. Just focus on what you can control and things are gonna go your way or they won't, and you just have to keep grinding. So to put Aranda in a situation where it's like if you don't perform, like the team is screwed. It's not good for his mentality.
Yeah, it's just like you said, it's not fair in a sense. It just to put a young kid in that situation, it would be almost like career altering opinion. Unless he performs, like if he doesn't, it's like a 50-50 chance. If he doesn't perform, then we're all like, Aranda's the worst player to ever play, blah, blah, blah. With some of our fan base being that way, it just feels like that's not a fair situation to put a kid in.
Yeah, and it's really like not to say that like I honestly think he could come in right now and be a better bat than Jimon Choi over the next month, but the defense isn't there, and there's the high volatility with a rookie. Like he's gonna have really good days and then I'll have really bad days. I'll take like a higher floor Choi any day, even though I know that Aranda could probably swing the bat better right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think there's really only one fix to his defensive struggles.
And what would that be?
I think, man, if he went to shop.rblrsports.com and got one of the most amazing Bring Back the Devil shirts in the world, I mean, I think that would help his defense phenomenally. And if he didn't want a Rays shirt, I mean, we've got Bucks inspired, we've got Lightning inspired, we've got Rowdies inspired. There's even a Tampa Bay Bandits inspired shirt in there. And let's not forget about the Bucks. I don't know if I said them first already, but all your major Tampa Bay teams we've got. And you know what, Ben? I think we have a discount code for them, don't we?
I think we do, and if they haven't used it yet, time is running out. You never know how long this code is going to be going on. I think we've had it like almost a year now, so it's probably close to finishing, but who knows? And that promo code is Flappy. That's FLAPPY. You get 10% off your order at shop.rblrsports.com.
I love it. All right, so we talked about last week. We talked about kind of our not best play here recently. We haven't talked about our topics of the week yet, though.
Yeah, you can go first because I'm going to mute real quick and blow my nose, but go ahead and get started. I'm listening. You're good.
All right, perfect. So while you're blowing your nose, my topic of the week is the one and only Mr. Kevin Kiermaier. Kind of He obviously had season-ending surgery, which we sort of expected when he got hurt because they said that it was a serious injury. But we then find out news that Tampa is going to decline his last year option, and instead of paying him, I believe it was $13 million, we're now going to do a buyout for $2.5 million, and he will become a free agent. So my question to you is, what do you think is next for KK? Do you think he comes back? Do you think that he's with another team? Because I'm leaning one way, and I wanted to kind of get your opinion on it.
I mean, just based on what he said in his video, which was, kind of weird. I feel like right after surgery to like post a video of yourself, like just go relax, but whatever. He was like, I think he said he's coming back.
Yeah, he
I don't
said
know if that means
I'll be
like to
back.
baseball. Yeah. So I feel like he's a very like, sentimental guy for the most part. At least that's what it seems like. He loves this team. He loves the franchise. I could see him taking a pay cut to come back in like a platoon role. Um, which would hurt his Hall of Fame chances, unfortunately, but that's for another day. But I think he'll come back to Tampa. I don't see why not. The Rays are pretty right-handed in the outfield now, which is crazy
Yeah.
because before the deadline it was like 12 lefties and like two righties, but now it's reversed. So, bring back a well above average league defender who can, who was pretty close to league average with the bat this year. Like he was looking solid. Um, to bring him back in a platoon role for a couple million would be a pretty good financial move, I think.
Yeah, I think financially, if he were willing to come back in a platoon role, I could see it happening. If I were Kevin Kiermaier, I know that I'm one of the best defensive center fielders really ever.
Yeah.
Not even just as a Ray or right now. Ever. I almost wouldn't want to be a platoon guy though. So I'm trying to think, like, I know that he loves this team, but I could very well see him signing somewhere else and being just a stud for somebody else for a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how well his hip is feeling, but hopefully he went to the best surgeon possible. And yeah, I guess we just have to wait and see because he's really the only one who knows what he's going to do. Um, I mean, it's also just a rumor that the Rays are going to decline his option, which like I have a
Exactly.
feeling they will. But like he was on pace for like like in terms of Fangraphs value, like a $20 million season when he's getting paid 12 million. Like that's fantastic, especially in like the limited role he was in this year. So if they can bring him back on like a 3, 4, $5 million deal, he could probably put up like an easily like a 10 to $15 million value based on mostly defense alone. And who knows, maybe the hip thing kind of fixes his swing mechanics or helps him like simplify things and he starts, hitting a little bit better because that would be cool too.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just have this weird feeling he's going to sign with the Cubs. I don't know why. Like, I wish I could explain my reasoning, but I just have this weird feeling that we're going to see KK in a Cub uniform at some point.
Well, I think he grew up in like near Chicago. I know he went to Purdue, which I'm pretty sure is near there. His
See, I
brother is
didn't.
the head grounds crew guy at the Cubs.
That might be where it comes from then, because I didn't as much of a KK. I'm not really a super big KK guy, but I didn't know he was from that area. I didn't know that he went to Purdue. I do remember when we went and played in Chicago, there was a big thing about Kiermaier's brother being the head ground guy there. So maybe that's where it comes from, but I don't know. I just have this weird feeling.
I mean, and I know that he's married, so this is kind of a stretch, but like, he's like a 7 or an 8 in St. Pete. He'd be a 10 in Chicago. He could go out where like a St. Pete 8 is a Chicago 10, like by far. So I think he could do well for himself in like the nightlife scene if he was interested. Yeah, so who knows? Definitely couldn't go to LA though. They wouldn't
No,
translate as well. Like
no,
the accent
he'd
on
be a
that
4
is
in LA. Yeah.
yeah.
All right, not where I expected the KK talk to go. But what's your topic this week, man?
I didn't expect it to go there either, but my topic is Yu Chang. I've been I was kind of like ironically high on him when the Rays first acquired him,
Yeah.
just because his exit velocities are really good, and they have been good for most of his career. He's got a strong track record in the early minors before all the power just kind of disappeared, and it was really like his swing was not optimal, and I thought that they were trying to adjust his swing and stuff like that, and try to get him to get under the ball a bit more to get some backspin. But I was talking to a couple people this weekend, or not this weekend, this past week on Twitter about like attack angle, which is really interesting. So like where on the ball Yu Chang is starting to make contact, and before it seems like he was making contact really far back on the plate. He was trying to get underneath the ball and with like a big uppercut swing, and that was causing him to unfortunately hit a lot of ground balls because he was hitting like the top of the ball because the swing path was too high. So, this was going to be a video thing, but I can just explain it mostly. So, if you hit the ball and it's like on the way to the plate and it's near the back of the plate, you're more likely to hit a ground ball. But if you catch the ball in front of the plate, you're more likely to hit it up in the air. So, right now, it seems like the method that they're using with Chang and like the hitting lab and getting him to start playing better is he's just focusing on swinging as hard as he can, and they're also simultaneously working on him like making contact with the ball in front of the plate so it can get like more of a natural lift and kind of cancel out his topspin. He actually has his hardest hit ball of his career with the Rays this year, which is interesting. Um, and his fly ball percentage dropped like almost to like 10-15% when he first joined the Rays because they completely told him to they probably told him to forget everything about his swing. So it's starting to climb back up a bit now because he's able to catch the ball in front of the plate. His exit velos are really good. He had a really nice hard hit fly ball the other way last night that went like 380 something feet. It was a fly out, but like he's really starting to do it, which is really cool. Because I think the Rays kind of unlocked something with swing decision, development and things like that. And I'm excited to see how they apply it to some of their other players.
So I looked at the graphics you were talking about, and obviously, like most of his numbers have kind of shot up since, especially in this last week and a half. Do you think that that is solely on just being in the lab with the Rays organization? Like, do you think that we are that good at developing and helping correct issues that he's going to stick with this, and this could be, kind of what we expect? Obviously not as hot as he has been this week. I think that that's kind of just, if he sticks there, awesome. If he doesn't, it's kind of expected. But do you think that that's what we are able to do with players?
I think it's going to work for every player because, to catch the ball in front of the plate and try to hit home runs, like you have to have really good power, and he has really good power. But like, for example, a guy like Harold Ramirez, like if they started doing that, it'd probably work for him a little bit. I think Yu Chang surprisingly has a bit better power.
Yeah.
He's a bit bigger, a little bit more stocky. So, but then a guy like Xavier Edwards in AAA, like it's not going to work for him. He has like some of the slowest bat speed in the minors. So I think it's really interesting and it'll help them in the future. But when Wander's healthy, I don't see him sticking around, unfortunately. Like I love him and I'm really, excited about what he's done, but I don't think it's sustainable, even if it's really fun right now.
Yeah, and that's fair. I kind of agree with you on that. I don't think that he's going to be an all-star, shortstop for us. And we don't have any room for him at shortstop or second base, and I don't think he's going to replace even Yandy at third. So, fingers crossed he sticks with it and he becomes a really good player. I just don't think it's going to be for the Rays.
Yeah, I think he'll end up, maybe I could see him like, staying in some kind of utility role when Wander's healthy, but there's just not much room on the roster. He's a good defender. He's versatile. I think Walls is a better shortstop, even if the defensive metrics aren't great. I think defensive metrics for infielders are kind of broken, so
Yeah.
it's not really his fault. But yeah, I mean, he's really exciting, and it's really cool to see what the Rays have done with him in such a short time.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And they're not to jump off of your topic, but there is one more very big topic in baseball as of yesterday, actually.
Oh yeah, Fernando Tatis. He tested positive for steroids in a really poor decision by him, or not for steroids, performance enhancing drugs.
Yeah.
So
Now I want to talk to you a little bit about that, because in a weird way, I'm not as upset with steroids as I think most people are. Um, I just don't see how it makes your game better aside from making you stronger.
yeah, and while apparently like what he was doing was, so the substance he was taking, he was using it to like help his wounds from his motorcycle accident that he was trying to hide from the team. So it's just kind of like a really bad situation. I don't know if that's 100% true, but that's what I've seen like
Yeah.
reported on from like verified sources. So I don't know, it's all over Twitter. Just check it out. It's really interesting, but the Padres definitely knew that he was going to be suspended. I think that's part of the reason why they threw everything to get Soto, even though it was a pretty like okay package.
Now, so with that, does that make the Soto deal literally? I mean, I think Eureka, our producer, had commented in our group chat, which to me made perfect sense. I believe he said something along the lines of, "It makes the Soto deal seem even cheaper now." Like, if they knew that was going to happen, the fact that they got Soto for what they did just made it that much more impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like they really kept it a secret then that Soto did test positive, or else I feel like the Nationals would have asked for a lot more because the Padres were probably pretty desperate, um, for Soto, even if they were trying not to act like it. So, really great move by the front office there.
Yeah, I got to give him credit. Credit where credit's due. You kept your superstar uh, steroid test on the low and got another superstar out of it.
Yeah, just good for them, really. So, yeah.
But yeah, so that's all I have. The last thing I'm going to throw in before I send it over to you for your final thoughts is we already asked you guys at the beginning if you could just give us a like wherever you're listening to this. We're on everything as far as Apple Music, Spotify, anywhere you can listen to podcasts we are on. If you guys could just give us a like and a follow or whatever you got to do, that would be amazing. And then as far as social media, we're on all the major social media platforms at RBLR Sports, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, anywhere you can imagine we're on. If you guys could just jump on there and give us a like or a follow, that would be amazing. And then Ben, I'm going to send it off to you, brother.
I like the Rays' chances to even the series today. The Orioles used 3 of their 5 better relievers to protect a 7-run lead, which was interesting. While the Rays, they used Sean Armstrong and Yu Chang, and like Armstrong's been great lately, but he's not Pete Fairbanks, he's not Jason Adam, he's not Brooks Raley. So really interesting, head scratching bullpen management from Baltimore. So I think that sets them up well for today, and then Sunday should be a pretty intense game. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think it's going to be a good week of Rays baseball. Here's to Zach being positive for a second. It's going to be a good week of baseball. It's going to happen. We're going to control our own destiny after this week. I have a feeling.
Yeah, so that's about it. I don't have anything else to say except for go Rays.
Hell yeah, go Rays.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.